afternoon. Thanks for making it after lunch. I know with a steak and potatoes lunch, it's hard to get yourself back to the conference center to listen to another hour and 15-minute speech. My name is Jay Schulman. I will be speaking on phishing with Asterisk PBX. Just to talk to you a little bit about what we are going to talk about today, we're going to look at the background, the concept, what our phishing technique is, the tools it takes to do it, the basic monitoring techniques. We're going to build from that. And then we're going to talk about an advanced phishing PBX system. And then finally, we're going to talk about the most important part is preventing this type of attack. Talk about the background. Why is this becoming a popular issue? First thing is phishing emails are becoming less and less effective. Every time I hear statistics, I actually hear that they're just as effective. But I have to believe that people are actually are not clicking on the links. They're not following through on it. Regulatory changes make it a little bit harder to fish. We're going to talk about why that's, what the regulatory changes are, how that's affecting people. Fishers are becoming more creative. We'll talk about that. And of course, what's old is new. Everything here, everything I'm going to talk about today, there's really nothing new to it. It's really all about what is old has now become new again. Let's look at phishing to date. This is from May 2006. Sorry about that. I was hoping to get the June statistics up, but they were not available as of yesterday. The key items to look at are the last two statistics. The average time online for a phishing site is 5 days, and the longest time online for a site is 31 days. Both of these numbers kind of surprised me. I don't know how they actually come up with the actual statistics, but 5 days actually seems a little bit long for an average, and the longest time, it's hard to believe that a phishing site is actually online for 31 days. The regulatory guidance, the FFIEC guidance on authentication and internet banking, this is one of the reasons why they're moving towards this type of phishing attack. You'll see here, I'm not going to read you the whole legislation, but the interesting part to note is the last sentence, other controls reasonably calculated to mitigate those risks. There's a broad spectrum of what banks can do. This is the Bank of America passmark technology, passmark being one of the most common technology used to comply with the FFIEC guidelines. The idea here is you enter in your username, you're going to notice a picture, and you'll respond to that individual picture that you picked, and there's a couple extra questions. This isn't to say that next year at BlackHat or DEF CON that we're going to actually have somebody come up here and talk about how to bypass or how to phish around the passmark technology. But needless to say, people are looking for easy ways to phish. They're not looking to create complex things. The first VoIP phishing reported, the best that I can tell comes back to about April 25th. CloudMark found it. It basically was a simple attack. They didn't have a lot of information about it, but I basically put about the April time frame of when the first real incident came out. Let's take a look at what we're really talking about here with the recent phishing email. This one is a rather poorly done example, if I may say so. Where we have Visa and MasterCard together. That generally doesn't happen very often, and nor if you look at the from there, it's visa@mastercard.com. Again, most common sense people probably wouldn't fall for this, but there are a number of people who do. And it gives you a 1-805 number to confirm your account information. Looking at it, surprisingly, even though the 805 number which we'll talk about next. This is the same phishing one used with the Santa Barbara Bank and Trust. It happens to be in the Santa Barbara area, so it was probably a reasonable idea that the person chose the 805 number. You'll get to hear the example in a moment. It's actually using a text-to-speech for IVR. The big joke was that it's probably fairly recognized that Eastern European countries are responsible for a lot of fraud in general that affects people in the United States. And so there was a common joke going around, are we going to start hearing a thick accent on these phishing scams? And in fact, they're using a text-to-speech IVR. It's very computer-generated. It hangs up upon entering your information. If you actually go through and enter the information, it hangs up on you. And the poor quality email, you see down here, we earnestly ask you to call this number. I'm not sure any company has ever earnestly asked me to do anything. Going on to the first voice phishing alert comes from WebSense. It's for the Santa Barbara Bank and Trust. These were the same phone numbers that ended up in two different emails, two different types of things. And let's listen to what it sounded like. Oh, we can, sorry about that. Did everybody hear that? I can try to get it even closer here.
Welcome to account verification. Please type your 16-digit card number.
It's hard to tell when you go through all these speaker systems, but in fact, it's just a text-to-speech example, and we're going to actually talk about how you can do that and what that looks like. As far as phishing officially published, the best I can tell again is that it comes from Security Fix. It was the first article, was about June 26th, and an article entitled Phishing Dialing for Dollars. And from there, I turned my speech in. For any of you who were familiar with how BlackHat works, I turned it in about on the end of June. And for the month of July, it's probably been one of the most published topics in security. Wall Street Journal, a number of other magazines and newspapers publishing articles on this. SMS phishing from F-Secure, they published back in April a similar way to get the message out. And as I'll talk about, we're really focused on the actual platform used to create the phish, not so much in this case in how you get the word out to call your number. This is an SMS text message. Again, from a reasonableness standpoint, if I got a random text message from my bank, I'm not sure that I'd call the number back. But this is definitely an example of what's happening out there. So let's talk about our phishing concept. Again, this is a standard generic phishing email. I'm not particularly picking out one bank here. I took it off of their website as an example of what to avoid. And it goes through here, and the standard protecting the security of your account, and something happens. So you need to call this 800 number to find out, to reinstate your account. So let's go ahead and call the 800 number.
Welcome to credit card services. Please enter your full 16-digit account number.
Of course, I'm not going to really enter my 16-digit account number, but I will enter
Please enter your zip code.
I can enter a fake zip code.
For balance and available credit, press 1. For payment information,
So I want my balance information, so I'll press 1.
or to report payment that will be. Thank you for calling credit card services. May I have your account number today?
And I actually get a real live person. So the question is the first thing that comes to mind is how did I do that? And I started off with, and I encourage you to take a credit card out of the back of your wallet. Just about most credit card companies have it. Is there's a international callers, please dial area code wherever they happen to be located. And there's no IVR connected to that. It's kind of amazing for all the websites out there that talk about how you can bypass the IVR if you hit 0 86 times, you hit star, then 6, then Q, you'll get a live operator. For most credit card companies, you can actually dial their international phone number, and you get connected fairly quickly to a real human being. I would encourage you to go ahead and use that. I haven't spent a lot of time talking to them, but I don't think that they ask you whether you're really calling collect internationally. They'd be happy to help you. So let's take a look at the workflow and how it works. The user calls the 800 number in the email just like we did. Our phone system answers the call and then asks the caller questions. And our PBX is going to record the call and while we're transferring it to the real operator. So in this case, we're capturing some information through the IVR, and we're actually going to record, we're going to do a call hijack, and we're going to record that conversation with the operator. So here's the tools. You need a PBX platform, voice over IP 800 number provider, voice over IP outbound number provider so that we can make that transferred call, and a computer to run it on. We start off with Asterisk. You heard a lot about it in this morning's talk. It is an extraordinarily powerful telephone system. When I went back and said, there's nothing really new here, one of the interesting facts is that most of this is coming out of the economics of doing this type of work have changed. To do this maybe 5 years ago, you had to actually go out and buy an Avaya system. You had to buy, some form of commercial telephone system. The fact that there's an open source one available makes this a lot more accessible. If you look on that last paragraph, this is just right off their website, you can do voicemail, call conferencing, interactive voice response, call queuing. We're going to talk about how all of these things can really be put together to create some interesting phishing. Again, TrixBox is kind of the all-in-one toolkit. If you're familiar with Asterisk, you're probably saying, oh, why are you going and building such a fat client? But one of the things that I wanted to emphasize today is that really anybody can do this. This is not a very highly technical phishing thing to create. It's actually very simple. With TrixBox, you can actually bring it up in the VMware player. So you can download right off VMware's website. They have a pre-made VMware player, and literally as fast as you can download it off the internet, you can boot up and have this running, and I would honestly say 2 minutes, not including the download time. Again, as we see these scams going and getting more sophisticated, I think what you'll see is that people will break into other people's servers and install a very slimmed down version of Asterisk to run this off of. Again, if you're going to really, my example here is really just to show you the power of the tools, not to show you how to do this as a phisher might do this. And for them to do it, they don't want to get caught. So they're going to want to do it not on your home computer, but on a computer that's not connected back to them. You need a voice over IP provider, 800 number provider. Again, talking about how the economics have changed. A couple of years ago, you had to call up one of the big telephone companies, request an 800 number. It took a long period of time. This is, again, I'm not endorsing any of these. I really was looking for an ease of use to get an 800 number. Sixtel, which I believe was recently acquired by another company, but their service hasn't changed. And you can very quickly get an 800 number. In fact, you can get vanity 800 numbers. I looked up all of the ones, this was back a month ago. If you wanted to get something that ended in fish, so you had 98 fish as your 800 number, you could do that. For the vanity 800 numbers, you have to wait a little bit longer. If you do one of the ones that you have in your queue, in their queue that they've already pre-purchased, I suppose, you can actually get an 800 number in just a minute or two. Taking a look at the voice over IP providers, again, there are a million voice over IP providers out there. One of the nice things about VoIPjet is that they allow you to modify the caller ID. So as you're transferring callers, you can change the caller ID, so what it appears on the other end is different than actually what you're calling through. And again, going back to the economics of voice over IP, one of the key reasons that this isn't, I don't want to say it's economical, but that you can actually do this is look at the prices for the UK and for the US. You're talking about a penny a minute to be transferring phone calls. That's a very, very small dollar amount. If you take a $5, you actually, to go back for a second, you get a free 25 cents. That's actually 25 minutes of calling without even putting down your 25 cents. If you put in $5 into the system, you get almost 500 minutes. You can look at the other countries too. The rates here for voice over IP are extraordinarily low. That's what makes this work. Remember, 5-10 years ago, nobody would invest in this type of telecommunications infrastructure to make back, I don't know how much money. But today, these dollars are all being very, very small. I would imagine that if it cost a penny to mail a letter, including printing out the letter, putting the stamp on it, and getting to the post office, we'd probably see more U.S. mail phishing scams coming up. So let's talk about the basic setup. This is the TrixBox admin screen. I think we saw a little bit of it this morning if you're in this morning's conference. Again, there's a couple pieces that go along with it. TrixBox is really what packages it all together. It comes with Asterisk and FreePBX, which is going to be our configuration tool. Let's look at configuring Asterisk. This really has nothing to do with phishing per se. It's really just showing you the power of Asterisk. If you look down the right-hand side, yeah, I guess my right's your right too when you look at it.